Hello. We are surrounded by laws. They govern nearly every aspect of our lives, from the roads we drive on to the contracts we sign. But have you ever stopped to ask a really fundamental question? Where do these laws actually come from? I don't just mean from a legislature. I mean, are our laws simply a matter of human agreement? Or is there something deeper, a source of justice that exists outside of what we write down in our books? This very question has been at the heart of one of the greatest debates in legal philosophy, and today we're going to explore it.
So let's frame it like this. Are laws created or are they discovered? Is law something we invent, rules we construct for social order? Or is it something we find, timeless principles of right and wrong that are woven into the fabric of reality itself? Now, for centuries, two powerful and profoundly different traditions have wrestled with this question. And believe me, this isn't just some abstract philosophical puzzle. The answer you choose has shaped nations, it's fueled revolutions, and it continues to define our understanding of justice today. Let's start with the older of the two traditions.
So our first stop is the classical world. For thinkers like Aristotle, the origin of law wasn't some hidden mystery. It was right there in front of them, embedded in the nature of things, in the reality of human relationships. For them, law was found in the world, not just in our heads. Aristotle gives us the perfect starting point here. Notice what he's saying. He's not creating two separate systems, one called natural law and another called political law. No, he's saying that within the one single legal system of a community, there are two components. One part is legal, meaning it comes from human agreement or convention. The other part is natural, meaning it arises from the very nature of the thing itself. It's not invented, it's simply recognized.
And this is where the classical view gets really interesting, and frankly, quite different from how we often think today. For them, the word law, or jus, didn't primarily mean a set of written rules. It meant the causa justa, the just thing. It referred to the fair and right resolution in a specific, concrete situation. So a jurist's job wasn't to invent a solution. It was to discover the justice that was already inherent in that particular relationship or dispute. Law was a feature of reality.
The philosopher Javier Hervada offers a fantastic analogy to explain this. He says, you cannot have the art of painting if human beings don't have the natural capacity to see. Well, in the same way, you cannot have positive man-made law if human beings don't have a natural capacity for justice. There has to be a natural nucleus of juristicity, an innate sense of what is due to another that serves as the very foundation for all the laws we create. Without that natural starting point, the whole project of law couldn't even get off the ground.
Okay, but that way of thinking, of finding law in the world, faced a major challenge. As we move into the Enlightenment, a revolutionary new idea began to take hold. What if law isn't found in reality, but is instead a product of the human mind? What if we could construct a perfect legal system from the ground up, using only the power of pure reason?
And this was a radical departure. You see this progression through the 17th and 18th centuries. First, you have thinkers like Pufendorf who want to create a science of law, something as certain and logical as mathematics. Then, others like Thomasius work to separate law from the messiness of morality, making it a purely rational system. And it culminates with philosophers like Immanuel Kant, who argued we could deduce universal legal principles from a priori truths, from pure reason alone, without any need for history, tradition, or metaphysics. The ambition here was just immense. The goal was to build a complete, universal, and unchanging system of natural law, a perfect code derived entirely from reason. This ideal code would then serve as a blueprint, a standard against which the flawed, messy, positive laws of actual states could be measured, and, more often than not, judged and found wanting. And this leads to a game-changing shift. The basis of law is no longer seen as the objective nature of reality. Instead, it becomes the subjective will of individuals. The legitimacy of law now comes from our consent, from the idea of a social contract where we agree to be governed. This is a profound move from a law that is to a law that we decide ought to be.
So here we are, with two profoundly different ways of looking at law. One finds law in the world, the other constructs it in the mind. Let's put these two great traditions side by side to really understand what's at stake in this debate.
This table really helps crystallize the conflict. The classical view sees natural law as the very foundation, the root system, if you will, of our one unified legal system. It's real, it's concrete. The modern rationalist view, however, sees natural law as a separate, perfect ideal, a blueprint that exists apart from our man-made laws, which are seen as just a pale imitation.
And that brings us to the absolute core of the disagreement. For the classical tradition, natural law is real law. It's something a judge could, in principle, apply in a courtroom. But for the modern school, natural law is really more of an ethical system, a moral compass. It stands outside the legal system and critiques it. So is natural law a part of our law, or is it an ideal we use to judge our law? That's the question.
Okay, a fascinating history lesson, you might be thinking. But why does any of this matter to us today? Well, it matters because this debate is not over. Not by a long shot. Its echoes are everywhere, shaping some of the most urgent and important conversations we have about justice, rights, and the very nature of law.
Think about it. Have you ever spoken about inherent human rights? Rights that you have simply by virtue of being human, rights that no government can give or take away? Or have you ever argued that a certain law is fundamentally unjust, even though it was passed by a legitimate government? When we justify civil disobedience, when we talk about general principles of law that transcend specific statutes, in all these moments, we are tapping directly into the powerful legacy of natural law thinking. We are making the claim that there is a standard of justice higher than the written law.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. If a law is passed through all the correct legal channels, following all the proper procedures, does that fact alone make it a just law? Is what is legal always the same as what is right? Your answer to that question places you right in the middle of this centuries-old and still incredibly relevant debate. It's something worth thinking about.